everyone, this is James here from TDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. Today I am going to be talking about a raw Pu'erh. Going to be comparing a couple here. So it's a pretty interesting topic in my opinion. This is a tea that I brought on in the past a couple times. The tea is the 2013 Yunnan sourcing Xiangming Wild Arbor tea. It's a Manzuan tea, so it's from one of the 6 famous mountains, Yiwu-ish tea. And it was brought on in 2014. This tea cost $40 then, and now, if you check on it, it costs $175 for a 250 gram cake. So definitely has become quite a pricey tea, not originally so. So this has been brought on twice. Once way back when, in a very early Inbetweenisode, I believe Inbetweenisode 33. And I think it was on the sort of queue to come onto a normal episode, but it never actually made it on. And so then I brought this on in 2023, which is a year I don't remember super well because my wife was pregnant during that year. And so it's always shaded by a lot of the memories that came after that. So it's revisiting that tea and comparing it with kind of the Malaysian storage that it had from my friend Meng. So what is the goal of this episode and what are the two versions? Well, one of the versions is mine. I blinded them again, so I don't know which is which. And the other one is also some PNW storage. This one is from Pu'erh Northwest. He is based in the Pacific Northwest over in Idaho. Which means that his climate is actually quite different from what you would have here in Seattle proper, which is where I am. So definitely it will be interesting to sort of parse those differences here. I don't know exactly when he bought the tea, but I'm guessing that he bought it fairly early on in kind of the mid-2010s, sort of like I have. So why this tea? Well, this tea was actually recently one of the 3 or 4 teas featured on a blog post by Marshall, which is a really interesting blog post. Highly recommend people check that out, where teas were brought on by Alex, who also has a great tea blog, Taiwan Tea Odyssey. So check both of those out. But the blog post was talking about a tasting where they drank through, I think, 4 of these Yunnan sourcing, like early Yiwu-ish raw Pu'erhs, and kind of just tried to see how they were doing. And I think even Alex would probably agree that these teas were not exactly optimally stored. So just kind of measuring how, the product evolved with different things has led to it. Sorry, I'm getting a little off track. But the point was that a couple of the teas in that tasting ended up being kind of processed weird in a way that kind of really stood out. This was not necessarily the tea that was highlighted there. The one I believe they kind of fixated on was the 2011 Gaoshanjai, a tea I don't have, and I don't have a ton of experience with. But this tea is one that I've stored for quite a while, and it made me very curious to go back and pull out some of these old Western boutiques that I have lying in the back of the Eurocape. This one I'd actually pulled out just a couple of years before, and I didn't notice anything necessarily wrong with it. But I pulled out this, I pulled out some other ones, and I've actually noticed more issues with teas from perhaps some other Western vendors rather than Yunnan sourcing specifically, which is perhaps a topic for another one. But in this video, we're going to be focusing on tasting these and trying to parse the difference between my storage and Pu'erh Northwest in Idaho. Just try to get a better grasp of how my storage is doing relative to others, and also get a grasp for Pu'erh Northwest storage, which I haven't had a ton from him yet either. And then the last thing is to, of course, kind of take a look at the processing to the best of our abilities and see. So a couple hints from the blog post from Marshall that he talks about for the green tea Pu'erh was the bitterness that just kind of takes over the session as it goes on. The tea might start out okay, and it just becomes overwhelmingly bitter. The other note that he mentions too is kind of the taste of beans, and it also just not being very aged. Now, the not being very aged part I think is going to be especially tricky because, of course, the U.S. stored, Pacific Northwest stored teas are not... we're not exactly talking about super accelerated aging in the tropics or anything like that. So anyways, let's get into the teas and let's see how these are doing. Okay, so I have blinded these teas. One is tea canister A, one is tea canister B. A is mine, B is from Pu'erh Northwest. I don't know which is which. Have not had Pu'erh Northwest before. I'm going to start left to right here. I just gave these teas a rinse off camera and going to get started doing that. So again, the purpose of this is not to necessarily measure the quality of this tea, which I did like once upon a time. it is to more just kind of parse the differences between the storage and say B is this green tea Pu'erh. So definitely going to be taking a look at the wet leaf, even though I don't know if that's necessarily going to give a ton of clues as far as that goes. Yeah, so we have similar-ish colors coming out here. Take a smell of both these guys. This one smells very much like my storage. Nice concentrated, a lot of sweetness, some grains coming off of there. And you can really see kind of the color that we're looking at for this storage. So not necessarily very impressive in terms of quick maturity. Aroma is a little more faded on this tea to the right. Similar. Definitely not talking about totally. Yeah, maybe a little more of this one. I would say hints a little bit more at becoming more semi-aged. A little bit of that kind of like raisins, something along the lines of a little bit of sweet fruit, something like that. So let's see. First steep. So yeah, we're going from steep 1 here. I think the storage and how those teas have been doing is going to be more determined by these early steeps. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we get to a point where we're going to be able to tell if it is green tea Pu'erh too. So I might just, I'm not sure exactly what I'll do, but I'll do something so we can taste the later steeps as well. Cheers. Very sweet. Sugarcane, grape. The body, it's not light, but it's moderate to light. Okay, yeah, very sweet notes to start. Maybe like a little candied grape, something like that. Similar place, but I would actually say I like the way the one on the left smelled a little bit more, and I like the one the way this one tastes just slightly more too. Very similar, perhaps a touch greener, but you know, we're talking well within the margin of errors. Like you could do a different session and maybe get a different result. Yeah, decent body, maybe slightly thicker than that one. So yeah, pretty similar overall. And the wet leaf should tell us a bit about storage, about how kind of far along these are. I suspect they're gonna from the initial take, I suspect they will be kind of similar. Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, when I was first starting the blog and stuff like that, it was quite difficult to find different examples of Western stored Pu'erh. Now we're at a point where there have been quite a few people that have been storing tea for over a decade, like exponentially more than there was a decade ago. So that is interesting, and so it's interesting. I mean, obviously some people fall off, so not everyone is still around that was storing tea back then. People that fall off and maybe aren't drinking tea anymore, their storage has maybe gone a little bit. But Pu'erh Northwest, from the sounds of it, I mean, he has such a large collection that it sounds like he has kept up with the storage. And his storage so far, I would say, is, you know, at least on the surface level, similar to kind of the phase that mine is at. So going to be going snakes now, so going back the other way. More florals coming off of this now. Interesting. Nutty as well. I don't detect any beans so far. The tea's not bitter, but we're not very far. And this one's also moving towards florals. Not really too many nutty notes on that, but again, these are very, very close, I would say, in terms of their form. Cheers. Yeah, sweet. It's thickened up just a little bit since that first steep. Gonna be drinking a lot of tea today, so I don't want to overconsume. Yeah, good sweetness. They both kind of have that Iwu area sweetness that, you know, goes a little bit further back than perhaps some other areas. But yeah, again, purpose not to necessarily evaluate the tea so much as the storage here. Interesting. I would say a touch darker, a touch basier. This one doesn't have, having it side by side by this one doesn't have as high of notes as this tea on the right. It's thickened up a little bit. I would say for this steep, I prefer steep 2 of this tea on my left. And we're going to do just one more, and then we're going to do the reveal of what these teas are, and then we're gonna see how it is when like much later in the session, and also take a look at some of the wet leaves. So maybe I'll just give them a big long brew and then see if they become excessively bitter. Again, going to go in reverse order here. Let that brew for just a little bit longer. Using 4.5 grams for 75 milliliters. A little on the light end, but you know, I'm drinking a lot of tea today. I will be filming multiple in-between-sodes, so there's that. I think definitely similar colors. Take a smell. A little floral, a little nutty, so perhaps. And drier florals here. I will say it is changing a bit each steep to steep, so that is kind of interesting. Very sweet, kind of a little hints at those raisins, some florals, some nuts, light on the nuttiness. Not bad, I'm gonna say. I mean, like, I know I'm not evaluating quality here, but I actually don't mind this tea at all. I don't think it's great tea necessarily, but I probably wouldn't pay $175 for it right now, but for $40 back then, I don't think it's terrible. Cheers. A little less sweet, just a slightly different array of flavors emphasized. I would say this one on the right needs a little more floral. This one on the left, a little bit more into kind of like those sweeter, light fruits, raisins, and whatnot. Gonna guess that this one on the left is mine, and the one on the right is Pu'erh Northwest. So let's see. And I'm correct. Left is mine, and right is Pu'erh Northwest. So. Yeah, let's get these guys going. Let's see how much water we got here. Okay, I think we're okay. So, I think I will brew these. So far, no bean notes, no overwhelming bitterness. Again, we're still pretty early here. So, yeah, I'm going to brew these off camera for a while, and then I will come back and kind of take a look. Okay, so I have brewed them sort of out in a way. I at least simulated that process, and this is a much later steep in theory. So here we go, doing both of these. We will also be looking at the wet leaf after this steep too, which is interesting because there's more of a difference than I would have thought. So let's drink. nice and thick. Still, it's not very bitter at all. This one, which the Pu'erh Northwest one, is leaning a bit more into those kind of woody, fruity notes. I would say that mine is actually a little bit further along. The wet leaf also indicates that. So, yeah, I don't think this is green tea pu'erh. We will take a look at the wet leaf and see if there's some evidence of any oxidation or anything like that on the stems, but yeah, nothing there either. Okay, so I think we will be now looking at the wet leaf of both of these guys. So going to be dumping them out here. So here is mine. There we go. And Pu'erh Northwest. So I'm going to move the camera in so you can take a look. Okay, so here is my Xiangming right there, and here is the one from Pu'erh Northwest. So let's see. The stems are maybe not really they look pretty green to me. You can tell that the storage-wise, that mine is a little bit darker for sure, which is what we're kind of coming to that conclusion slowly in the course of the video. So yeah, I don't think this is green tea pu'erh. Seems to be processed okay to me, and I think it's fine. It's not like a great tea or anything like that, but I think it's coming along. So yeah, that is my at least soft conclusion from this episode. So thank you all for tuning in. Let me know how you liked it, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.